Welcome to the dock, everyone. We're bringing you another Science at the Skansie House lesson. Today we're focused on the living things that are in the water and itty bitty. We're going to be looking at some plankton today. We're going to be grabbing... maybe we're not. Maybe we're going to go quickly into the Skansie House. Got some excited kids in the harbor today. But I can already see some plankton with just my naked eye, and I don't know how well they're going to photograph through the camera lens, but there are a number of larger planktonic animals, namely the jellyfish and ctenophores, which are a jelly-like animal, but not related super closely to them.
Yeah, so thinking about what makes plankton plankton is the fact that they're drifters. So these are living organisms that can't actively swim, and Rachel's totally right that, how well do they photograph? Not well, but do you see that?
I can point
blob?
to a jelly right here. So this is a little, I think this is a hanging stomach jelly.
Actually, that one comes, wait, there it is. What is
This
it called?
I think a hanging stomach jelly.
Look at that hanging
kind
stomach.
It's upside down right now. It's kind of facing down. But these are members of the Cnidarian phylum, so they're in the same group as corals and anemones, and they have stinging cells. The ones that we have here in the Pacific Northwest, our water is very filled with plankton, as you're about to see when we do our plankton tow, and so there's so much food here, they don't really have a super strong sting like other species do. Let's see, I'm noticing there's some cross jellies, but there's a tiny jelly there. There's one there. There's one there. There's one there. They are.
I think as the weather warms up and there's more algae in the water, we definitely start seeing.
We notice they're here all year round, but we notice them more in the summer months when they get nice
kind of
big.
bigger. You can see them pulsing around, thinking like they can kind of move up and down the water column. More than they can, move against a current.
Jellies are the ultimate go with the flow organism.
Yeah.
So when my kids are acting up, I tell them, be like a jellyfish, and they go with the flow. Okay.
It's adorable.
It works great. They totally understand what I mean. But we're gonna use two scientific instruments right now to show you a little bit that there is so much plankton in the water. And firstly, you can look into the water and see that the tide is coming back in, but we're not on a super high tide at the moment, and we can't see the bottom. So what I think is about 10 feet below us, 12 feet below us, is totally obscured because there's just so much in this soup.
Yes, the Emerald Sea is a good nickname for the Puget Sound.
So we've got two tools here. Tina, tell us about this one.
Yes, the first tool we have is a sucky disc, not spelled S-U-C-K-Y. I'm like, how do you actually S-E-C-C-I, something like that. And it is a way to measure turbidity, and turbidity is the amount of suspended solids in the water. So yeah, what's the stuff? So what happens with this is it has little markings on that line every half meter. And so Rachel, I'm gonna kind of stand up. Rachel will drop it down into the water until it disappears. Which, looking down at it, you can still see it in the water.
It's got the high contrast markings on it to help you see what we're looking at here.
So
I should have been counting marks.
Right.
You can count them on the way up, I suppose.
Yeah, so as soon as we don't see it anymore, that's one measurement.
Oh, it's fading though. But I think I'm at bottom.
Oh.
So it's right about at the bottom. I have to really squint to see it. So right about there where that red mark is.
Yeah. So for this, we'd go pick a deeper spot.
To get a true reading.
And then you average your meters.
3 meters and 4 meters. So 5 meters?
Sweet. Yeah, but that is just a really simple way to take a look and see, this could go in tropical waters, 100
feet or more.
Yeah, totally. And then another device that we have is a plankton tow. This is a net with a very, very small,
Tiny opening.
yeah, you can kind of
almost everything.
see here. That's a very tiny screen. So whatever can fit through there won't get caught, but anything that doesn't will be trapped. Number one rule with the plankton net is do not drop the plankton net.
The plankton net.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're very, very sad because you just chucked in your plankton net.
Yes, and then you have to call your scuba diver friends, and it's a time. So for those of you tuning in, you're welcome to ask some questions. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Rachel, you're going to chuck that plankton net in?
I'm going to chuck it.
All right. Are you holding on? Woohoo! All right.
I'm going to actually go.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, you can do a couple different tows. You can do vertical tows and horizontal tows. This is kind of a horizontal tow where we're catching a specific layer of plankton at kind of the surface area. I like to think of a plankton tow as walking the dog. And if we were being a little more, I don't know, scientific, I guess, we could do separate samples, but we're just going to collect as much plankton as possible. So we're doing a horizontal tow, and then we'll drop it down to the bottom and pull it up through the water column for that vertical tow and see what teeny tiny either plant algae or not, I guess it's not technically a plant, but the algae, ooh, nice, as well as, whew, hi there. So yeah, catching the drifting algae as well as the drifting animals.
I'm a little nervous for how many jellies we're probably going to have.
That is a fair worry.
Jellies don't do well being handled. But then again, they also can't really run into a dog in the boat to survive very well.
This is true.
But can you see the little egg yolk?
Oh my gosh, it's adorable.
It's a little face.
Can my camera see the little egg yolk? It can! One of the cool things about the Puget Sound is we have the world's largest plankton, and that is the lion's mane jellyfish. Again, jellies are technically plankton because they are drifters. So they're the animal drifters, the zooplankton.
Right, so I'm going to lower this down.
All right, so now we're
trying not to lose everything in my net.
Excellent. So yeah, now we're kind of switching gears to that. Ooh, oh, there's so many cool things in the water.
So many cool things in the
I see the
water.
gooseberry with the long tentacles.
Gooseberries are in the group Datenophores, which are not super close to jellies. They're their own phylum, but they superficially resemble them because they're totally translucent, gelatinous creatures that do eat plankton and drift on the currents as well. But they don't have stinging cells. Instead, they have sticky glue-like traps. All right.
Yeah. And so then when Rachel pulls this net up, any water that passes through the top of this net is going to get filtered and we'll catch any of the
collection cup and
things. Notice we've used this net a lot. It's got a little rusty. Another good thing is to make sure our canister's nice and secured.
I double checked it before we started.
Yeah, that's rule number 2. Hold on to the net and make sure the canister is secure. And yeah, so then we can take a peek. And what our plan is we're going to take this actually into the Skansie House. We have a microscope set up, and so we can probably see a couple things.
You can see mostly the shadows in there.
Yeah. There's some scuzz and goo and
A handful of little jellies in there too. So let's go take this up to the house and have a look at what we've got. Lots of diatoms.
okay, now the question is, do we end our feed and come back?
No, let's just go.
Okay. Y'all get to go on a walk with us, so maybe ask us some questions as we go along.
It's a great place to talk about where we are in the world.
Where in the world are we? And it's beautiful. Kind of scarily beautiful. Could probably use some more May rain, but
else I'm gonna do is grab a sample or two of some algae and things that I know look cool underneath the microscope.
Yeah, so we have some of this kind of filamentous green algae.
And
Ooh,
this scuzzy scuzz.
that's lovely.
We'll bring some of that. Some of the best stuff is in the scuzz, Tina.
I believe it. Lucky for these barnacles, which are filter feeders, life abounds in this water, so they can, as the tide's coming up, or they'll get covered in the water. You can kind of see we're at the top part of this piling, and the stock will float up and down. Great.
All right, let's head up. I will grab our gear if you want to go ahead.
All right. Hi there. We'll have to go look under the microscopes to see. But as we walk along, I'll point out the net shed here. This is kind of part of the historic buildings that are in downtown Gig Harbor. There's 17 net sheds currently around. This one is next to our building, the Skansie House, just the little brick building across the lawn. And then there was a really great project to redo the pump out station, the public bathrooms. You can go have a picnic on top up here or out on the deck. There's also a little water park in the summertime that's flowing. Yeah. Curious to see, what kind of things are gonna take place in this area. Oh, sorry for the connection issues. We never know. Yeah. Can get some. Hi. All right. As far as how often we do this, we're kind of doing this as a special program today. And this is more just an educational adventure for our Harbor Wild Watch fans. So
I'm going to, so you can see it, I'm going to pour our sample in some white bottomed cups, because otherwise it'll all just kind of wash out. And then what I'll do is create some slides and show them off to you.
awesome.
All right. So we have two microscopes set up in here.
We have the dissecting scope, which is good for looking at big things, and then a compound light microscope, which is good for looking at
Tiny
itty
things.
bitty things.
So we'll do both today. I've got just a petri dish, little acrylic plastic, and I've got a pipette here, which is this super science tool. I think it's my favorite, because you can get like a drop of water. And what I think we're gonna do is just grab some stuff. And I like to make little piles in here so that I can kind of look at each drop individually. And this limits, if I catch any swimming things, they can't swim very far. They'll just kind of go in a little circle.
Nice.
And what we can do is we can let this plankton sample settle a little bit, because they are heavier. And so in our tanks they will sink down a little bit. But I'll show you how I'm going to make a slide for the microscope. I'm going to take a clean piece of glass. I'm going to use that pipette, and I'm going to just put a drop, and then I'm going to cover it with just about the world's thinnest piece of glass. This is called a cover slip, and it is so tiny, and I am famous for breaking them because they are very delicate, and I am not very delicate. So let's grab, I'm seeing like some tube-worm poop in here.
Ooh.
It might be kind of cool to look at.
Always a delight.
There's also a few little moving things in here, but
Yeah.
let's just put a sample in there and see.
Yeah. And as far as there are groups that collect plankton samples and actually look for specific species, and that can be an indicator of water health, as well as the presence of different harmful algae. So harmful algal blooms are caused by specific species of phytoplankton, and so then we have it hooked up to the computer so we can see.
I just kind of scan through here.
Microplastic?
Ooh, a piece of fleece?
Yeah. Well, that's a discouraging first find.
Oh, but
That's cool.
this looks to be. Oh, and there's a diatom.
Can you tell us what magnification we're at?
That's a great question. We are in. We're on 40 power.
Great.
I think. This one doesn't tell me.
No worries.
But I think
We're magnified.
We're magnified. There's a little squiggly job down there.
Nice.
But we're looking at potentially an egg. Maybe something cool.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
This is where I'm just realizing I'm really rusty on my
Okay, but you know
microscopes,
this
but
one.
this is definitely a gorgeous diatom.
Yeah, this is some of that filamentous algae. They can be single-celled, they can be multiple shells kind of joined together, but they make a structure made of glass to protect themselves from other tiny microorganisms from eating them. Larger organisms, of course, just inhale this, no problem.
Focus camera, sorry. It's awkward doing a screen on a screen.
Yeah, sorry.
But it's pretty cool that we can broadcast it onto the TV, because then,
Because our eyes can see a lot.
yeah, and especially for the things that if there was something to move across the screen, like this little thing from the top right corner going down, we all got to see that. Whereas if we were, oh, look at the microscope, and then you lose it. And there is a substance called proto-slow that you can add to the water drops, and it kind of slow-mos everything. But I haven't been able to find.
I haven't
Yeah.
found it since college. I thought I had dreamt it up because I could not find it when I looked. So the internet is fatal to me. But I've got that scuzzy brown algae here.
Oh, fun.
You can see it's very scuzzy. It didn't quite fit underneath my slide, which is fine as long as I dry the edges. I won't keep my microscope clean. You never want to put something too large underneath there because it'll touch your lens. And you can imagine, cleaning your lens of your glasses. A microscope lens is much smaller and much more
Yeah,
precise.
I think I can tell we had these microscopes out for the public because we actually took off the highest power, because it's really easy to just slam a slide into the bottom of that. So Rachel has this
Yeah, look at those
nice
chains.
filamentous brown, or whatever scuzz.
And some
Swimming.
rubies in there, and we can go higher power on this one.
Nice.
And focus. And what we're doing when we focus is we're raising and lowering the stage of the microscope, and that lets us look through it, because these are three-dimensional objects and they're stacked on top of each other. And these are indeed diatoms. Can you see the tiny little spikes? Let's see if I can find some that are a little more visible. Let's see.
Yeah, and that I think.
Look, there's a molt of something and some kind of crazy creature.
You can see the power of numbers, where a diatom alone in the water is pretty much impossible to see, whereas when they form these chains and you get that scuzz ball, then ta-da! Get to see it with your naked eye, but it is gorgeous under the microscope.
These are they're chloroplasts. There goes somebody.
Who are you?
Some kind of cool creature.
Can we? Well, so the nice thing is we have this on video, so if we need to, we can go back and look and pause.
Freeze frame.
Exactly, freeze frame. There's also another, well, ooh.
There's another kind of different chain in there. But there's somebody else in the bottom corner. Yeah, come on out.
Come to
I like looking in the what I call the scuzz, the brown clumps that I can see with my naked eye because I know there's little mysterious planktonic organisms that can shelter in it. So rather than being just free swimming out there, they may glom on to something with a little more substance like this.
Then the other kind of tricky thing with the microscope is what you're looking at is the way you move the slide is backwards from what you think.
My brain takes me a second. I'm like, okay,
I want to look at the bottom right corner, move it in the opposite direction. You can see, yeah,
we're in the forest of the scuzz. But Sina, how many times have you and I geeked out over stuff underneath the microscope together?
The most recent one was some spawning material from a clam.
Oh, that's right.
That was pretty exciting.
Right. We were wondering, what in the world is happening? Oh, the clams are spawning.
And of course we had to take a sample.
Yeah, in my water bottle.
What was your decision?
I washed it really well before I used it again. But, that's the life of a curious, science-minded human. Oh, it's like another fiber of something. And I felt like the rope on our sample was fraying a little bit, so I'm wondering if it was letting loose little bits of material as we dragged it through the water.
It's one of those tricky things where I love fleece, but fleece is made out of essentially plastic, and then that plastic can slough off as little microfibers, and those microfibers can cause that plastic pollution. So I've been wearing wool more, of course, with all this nice weather. It's a little, nicer.
I
But
have one more slide that I can show you, and this is a well slide, or it's got a depression in it, so it holds a fair amount of liquid. And I'm gonna see if I can find somebody with my naked eye now that they've settled a bit. I think I got one. Maybe not.
We'll find out.
Scope, right?
Yeah, but kind of that, just in thinking about stewardship tips, if you can replace some of those fleece sweaters you have with more natural fibers like wool, that's kind of a cool way to make some positive change. The exciting thing about these well slides is we use them a lot, and so it's hard to tell, are we just focusing in on the plastic that's all scrunched up from us to...
Also, if there's current, little microcurrents from animals that move, my guess is they're going to be too fast for us to see on here.
Yeah, that's the handy thing with that cover slip is it kind of squishes
everybody in place.
Your friends in place.
Right.
You can see we have these slides here prepared with some various
Let's see, I might be able to
things.
show you. On the dissecting scope. Ooh, these diatoms are great. Oh, well, calm down, dude. There are some zoomy little guys in here. You might be able to see them with your naked eyes, Stan.
Oh, aka the camera.
Yeah, that's right.
What do you think, folks tuning in? Can we see the zoomies? We can! Look at that. That almost looks like a skeleton. No, maybe a jelly? What's in this one?
Could be
Who's in here?
Oh, it does look like a skeleton
shrimp. I kind of want it to be a
shrimp.
skeleton shrimp.
It does totally look like it. A little wiggly jiggly friend. I pulled one of the jellies in here if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah. Glare. Ah. Oh, sorry, friends. Try and focus. Actually, let's see if we can.
Focus.
Right? Can we take a look into the microscope? Actually, take her little eye.
This is the hardest part.
Yeah.
If you can see, let me see.
I just blind you.
This is where I recommend everybody gets their own microscope and play.
Did you catch that glimpse of these diatom chains? It's really hard to...
It's really hard. We have a tool for this too, and it's still super hard to focus. Oh, look at that. Swirly whirly diatoms.
Pretty cool. Do you want to... Well, we'll just move on.
Can I show you this, though? So our plankton, even a lot of the plant plankton can move. And what you might notice is up at the top edges, it's a little pinker than the rest. It's gonna be very hard to see with the camera, but hopefully you can see that there's a concentration of plankton up at the upper edge. And that is them fighting against the current to lift themselves up and be where the light is. So sometimes what will happen is you'll put them underneath your microscope and they will go to where the light is, where they can get to the light that's illuminating. Ooh, that worm is alive. Can you see that? That little black thing on the surface.
All right.
Is swimming.
Totally.
It totally looks like Snake, like that old game that you could play on your phone.
Yeah. Why is it not getting longer?
It is. You just.
Oh, it is. Okay. We need a microscope to see it.
You need a microscope to see it. So yes, lots to wonder about when it comes to the plankton and what's out there. And this was one tiny sample, literally just one little toe of water. If we were to really distill this down and concentrate the plankton sample, we would be absolutely amazed at what can be found in just one drop of water, which is, I think, incredibly important for us to remember as we are taking care of our environment and we're making sure that ways that we are impacting the environment are helping to keep the water clean. Is it drawing a star? It's drawing a star.
I am mesmerized by that worm. It totally is. Saying, for those of you taking action to protect the Puget Sound, you are the true stars of this show.
Fantastic.
That is so strange.
It's ruined my entire train of thought because now I'm just looking at a cool worm. So yes, this is my encouragement to you, that if this is at all fascinating to you, grab yourself a microscope kit. Be curious, wonder. There's a lot of kind of beginner's guides to microscopes. Like we even have, some pre-made slides with different, algae strains that are dyed and makes them easier to see and identify. But if this is something that interests you, please pursue it. It's so much fun, and the world in miniature is just wild and gives you a greater appreciation for everything that's out there, all working in concert, because you and I probably wouldn't have this oxygen that we're breathing if it weren't for a lot of these diatoms that are in our water sample here. So next time you take a deep breath, thank the ocean plankton.
Yeah, I think most people think of the trees, but there is a considerable percent of the air we breathe comes from our ocean producers.
Way to go, little ocean producers.
Is there anything else we want to look at before we sign off here? Maybe a thanks to the LTAC committee.
Oh, yes. The
Gig Harbor
Advisory Committee.
For
funding these Science at the Skansie House.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it because I get to look at cool stuff.
Yeah, and thanks for all of you for tuning in and wandering along with us. It's always fun to see where you're watching from and hear your questions, and we do our best to answer those as we go along. I wonder if we put the diatoms back up on the... I'm gonna let Rachel do that. The multitasking. Sorry.
Film and...
Yeah, but just, I don't know, from looking at
there's the zoom in
what
there.
that looks at like there to what it looks like under the scope, it's a just entirely different world when you take a zoom in. pretty incredible.
I love it. Zoom around a little bit, see what else we can see. Ooh, broken bit. Perhaps.
Oh, shout out to my mother dearest tuning in. She, we're getting diatoms. Okay, this is a cool thing. They're getting a shout out from all the way in Montana.
It's the most famous diatoms there ever were.
Right? Pretty cool what the technology lets us be able to see these things and share it across the country, as well as, I don't know, I know we have some international followers, so I'm gonna say across the globe.
There you go, I like it.
Pretty stinking cool. Yep, zooming things around. So, for all of you who tuned in, thanks for watching. We're gonna sign off here, but appreciate all of your support, whether you're liking, commenting, or sharing, or even financially supporting Harbor Wild Watch. We appreciate all of you, and can't wait.
I just say that we met our goal for Give Big last week.
We totally did.
We had a big fundraising push, and our goal was to raise $5,000, and our board members did a $5,000 match for a total of over $10,000, and
Within 48 hours.
yeah,
So
so
we've got a generous crew in our world. So pretty incredible. So with that, learn, have fun.
Learn,